Welcome back to my channel. My name is April and today I'm going to be attempting to make a zero waste bag from an old pair of jeans. This is my first time making this. I've seen people make denim bags from jeans before, but I haven't seen a zero waste project, so I hope this works out. Before we get started though, thank you so much to Cricut for sponsoring today's video. They sent me a bunch of their supplies to personalize my bag afterwards, so keep watching to see how easy it is to use their cutting machine and design space. I hope you enjoy this video and let's get started. First, I folded the jeans in half and cut the legs off right below the crotch seam. Then I cut the crotch seam open to see what the bottom will look like tucked in as a bag. It looks good, so I set it aside for now to see what I have to work with for the pant legs. I cut each pant leg open down the side seam that isn't top stitched down. One of the pant legs will be used to create straps for the bag, so I cut some wide pieces that when folded in half can be sewn into 1.5 inch straps. I'm trying not to worry too much about all the scraps I'm cutting away right now, and we'll figure out what to do with them later. For the second pant leg, I'm going to use it to create a flap for the bag and turn it into a messenger bag so that more material gets used up. As for the rest of the leftovers, I was at a loss for how to incorporate it all. I cut the leftover pant leg in half and thought I could piece it together in the other direction, or maybe I could create a little pencil pouch to accompany the bag. But if I do that, what would I do with all the tiny scraps? This made my brain hurt, so instead of worrying about it too much, I moved on to making the straps by piecing together the 2 strips I cut earlier. Once the strap is pieced together, I folded it in half and marked 1.5 inches from the folded edge to use as a guideline since my fabric is unevenly cut. I left it uneven and with extra seam allowance so that I can sandwich everything on the inside and avoid creating more scraps. Make sure to switch your needle to a jeans needle or bigger size to sew through all the thick layers with ease. Then edge stitch the open side of the strap down. I set the strap aside to focus on the flap next. I folded the pant leg right sides together with the shorter side being the top and the wider side being the bottom of the flap. Trim away the extra fabric around the sides, and then sew down the sides, leaving the top open. Turn the flap inside out, and then I top stitch the edge. I have an entire video sharing tips for sewing denim, so make sure to check that out if you want to learn more. Moving on to the main bag, aka the top of the jeans, I turned it inside out and will be sewing straight across the flattest part of the jeans, which is above that crotch curve. Trim the extra material away. I want to square the corners of the bag so that it isn't flat, so I drew 2 squares at the bottom corners that are 1.5 inches wide and then cut them out. Open up the square so it's a straight line like this and sew it closed. Along the way, make sure you're always finishing the raw edges of your denim bag to prevent it from unraveling. This will ensure that the bag will last longer. Before sewing the straps on, I trimmed them a little shorter first and then sewed it upside down at the sides of the bag. Then I flipped it up and top stitched it down to enclose the raw edge. Using the leftover strap I cut off, I realized that it could be used as a bag handle, but I won't be sewing it on yet, so let's just set it aside for now and tackle those scraps again. If you recall, I had these two big pieces to use, and with the growing pile of tiny scraps, all I can think of is creating a plushie. I'm still at a loss for what to do, so I decided to get some inspiration from the Cricut design space. I opened up a new project, clicked on the images tab on the left side, and searched up something I liked. And immediately I saw these really cute dancing mushrooms with faces on them, which inspired me to make a mushroom themed bag. Now I have a vision for the scraps and can begin cutting circles from the smaller pieces to decorate the bag with. With the big leftover pieces of denim, I did decide on making a plushie, a mushroom plushie, to pair with the bag like a keychain. I could have cut my mushroom plushie pattern out by hand, but using the Cricut design space to resize it saved me so much time and paper. All I had to do was stretch it out and see if the size would match up with the size of the scrap that I had, because I want to use up as much fabric as I can. I cut the pattern out on cardstock using the Cricut Joy Extra and can now trace the pattern pieces onto the leftover scraps and cut it out. I share this tip in my sewing denim video, and it's become one of my most favorite techniques to use. A hammer! You just have to pound the bulky seams of the denim with a hammer so that they soften and lay flatter, making it easy to sew over. Works like a charm. I cut more tiny circles for the mushroom plushie and then sewed them on top by zigzag stitching over the raw edges. If you're using contrasting thread like me, it creates a cool decorative look and helps the spots pop out even more. Once the mushroom head and stem are created, I cut majority of my denim scraps into smaller pieces and stuffed my mushroom with it. It seemed like I had so many scraps to use up earlier, but after cutting them all up and filling the mushroom with it, I actually needed more, so I used my other scraps as well. I'm gonna pause on finishing the mushroom right now in case there's more scraps to stuff it with later, and now I can sew the mushroom spots onto the bag flap. I have to be mindful of where I want the spots to be because I still need to add the cute dancing mushrooms on, so I figured it was best to cut the design out first. I selected a variety of mushrooms from the Cricut design space and made them different sizes. It's really easy to see what size they'll be because of the grid ruler, and I also like to preview it on the cutting mat to double check if it's the right size. Just make sure to mirror your design so that it's not backwards when you iron it on. I'm using some smart iron on vinyl in white, and all I have to do is face the sheet glossy side down on the mat and insert it into the machine for cutting. While that's going, I'm gonna sew the spots on to the flap by zigzag stitching over the raw edges. It's looking pretty cool so far, but I still have some more spots to use up, so I'm adding them onto the main bag as well. Now I can add the handle to the back side of the bag by top stitching it down on the inside. And finally, I can add the flap by laying it over the handle and also top stitching it down to the inside. Once the bag is complete, I can now throw any leftover scraps into my mushroom plushie and hand sew the mushroom head and stem together. Back to the Cricut, I weeded all the mushrooms out and made sure to save my plastic scraps because I can use it to stuff my mushroom later. This is actually my second time posting this video because some of my viewers reminded me that it isn't completely zero waste if I'm Cricutting vinyl. So I wanted to make sure I'm including the plastic waste as well in this zero waste project. I can now press them onto my bag using the mini press, which is really great for pressing little details. Pressing vinyl on is super easy. Just decide the placement of your design, make sure you're using the right heat setting, and follow the directions for whatever material you're using. And it's very important to make sure you're pressing firmly and on a flat, even surface, or else your vinyl might not stick. Then just peel off the transfer sheet on top. I decided to add a little mushroom guy on the inside of the back pocket. So it was a little more challenging to press, but I just made sure to go over it multiple times and with more heat to really secure it. Here are all my scraps from cutting out my vinyl designs. Before weeding, I always make sure to cut away and save the unused vinyl scraps because they can still be pieced together for other projects. The weeded scrap vinyl can easily be used as stuffing for my plushie, and for the plastic transfer sheet, I want to cut them into even smaller pieces as well so I can use it as stuffing. I first was cutting the plastic by hand, but then I thought, why not work smarter, not harder, by using the Cricut to cut them out. So I put a bunch of circles on the Cricut design space, and I chose circles because I figured the shape of them would prevent the sharp edges of the plastic from poking through the fabric. However, jeans are a nice strong fabric, so it should hold up pretty well no matter what. The transfer sheet is super sticky, so after my first trial run, I learned that dusting some powder on the sticky side will make them easier to remove and work with. I really didn't need to use my makeup brush for this. It'll get distributed by just using your fingers. Here are my tiny piles of vinyl and plastic waste, and now I can stuff the mushroom head with it because there's still plenty of space. Just hand sew the opening back closed, and we're done with the mushroom plushie. Here is the final zero waste bag reveal. I cannot believe I'm carrying around an entire pair of jeans disguised as a bag. How amazing is it that zero scraps were wasted and it was all used on this project? If I want my bag to look more like an upcycled pair of jeans, all I have to do is tuck the flap inside to reveal the jeans. For the mushroom plush keychain, I actually cut off the strap and decided to sew a loop at the side of the bag instead to hold the mushroom. This way I can take the mushroom out for no good reason. It is very random, but I love it. I hope you try making your own zero waste denim bag, and if you're having trouble figuring out a direction for your scraps, find a theme you enjoy and bring it to life. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't seen my announcement video, next year I am releasing a book called DIY Thrift Flip. So if you want to get more into upcycling, check it out. It's up for pre-order now. See you next time. Bye!